And on her map that she gave us, it doesn't say that the height was increased, but she keeps saying the height was increased. Was the height increased on the 2.3 megawatts?
My name is Tyler Wilhelm. I'm the Senior Project Manager of the Crown Ridge project. To answer your question, the height did not increase. In our permit application, we had the largest turbine that was represented was at 485 feet, and we are not exceeding that height. So no, the heights did not increase.
Okay. That's the question I had. Thank you.
I have one question, Tyler. Were there any changes to the application by the PUC to your towers that you requested?
There was no changes requested from the PUC. But what was mentioned earlier was that we did have 3 different turbine technologies listed in our CUP application when we came through in front of you guys. And then at the state level, we ended up just utilizing the GE 2.3 megawatt turbine. There was no difference in height from what we represented to you guys in our conditional use permit application and what was in front of the Public Utility Commission. They did not have, they were not the determining factor behind us only using the 2.3 megawatt machine. That was just a decision that was made by our company.
Okay, thank you. Other board members, any comments or questions? Amber, unless someone asks you a question, we've had our discussions.
I gave you the documentation on the height changes. I mean, you have the actual table, you have their actual application.
Did you not hear what I just said?
I just misunderstood, I thought.
Board members, comments or questions? If not, I'll assume you're ready to
I was
vote.
going to ask one thing, Bob.
Sure.
Just on that height thing, if the hub height changed, maybe did the entire, maybe your blades are shorter, so we have no difference in height. Is that what we're looking at here?
Amber, would you have a seat, please, so Tyler can come back to the microphone?
This PUC hub height, this is what they documented, PUC? Or, I'm asking, I don't know.
Sure. So, as I stated earlier, within our conditional use permit application, we had 3 different turbines represented. There was a 116 meter rotor diameter and 90 meter hub height, 116 meter rotor diameter, 80 meter hub height, and then 103 meter rotor diameter at an 80 meter hub height. So the largest turbine that was represented was at 485 feet, which was 116 meters at a 90 meter hub height, and that is what we are proceeding with now. So we have not exceeded that 485.
So you're just saying you haven't exceeded what you originally applied for?
Correct. We just utilized the largest of the turbine technologies that was represented in our conditional use permit application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for anyone? Okay, so this time we'll go ahead and the board will vote. A yes vote will overturn the decision of the zoning officer, and the board determines that action is necessary to comply with the zoning ordinance, or a no vote affirms the decision of the zoning officer. No further documentation or permits are necessary for the tower's reference. Call the roll, please.
Bob Fox,
No.
Mark O'Neill,
No.
Myron Johnson.
No.
Charles Russell,
No.
Rodney Klatt,
No.
Mel Reese,
No.
Brenda Hanton,
No.
0 yes, 7 no.
Okay, so the board has voted to basically affirm the decision of the zoning officer on this particular item. Appeal number 2 will start again with 10 minutes. Amber's ready to go. This one will address the appeal of the decision of the zoning officer that the ability of Jay, I'm going to pronounce it Haley, to practice engineering in the state of South Dakota does not affect the status of the conditional use permit issued to Crown Ridge Wind LLC and Crown Ridge Wind 2 LLC. And this is being appealed by Amber Christensen. So, motion to take this item up by a board member.
So.
By Myron, seconded by Mr. Klatt. Would you go ahead, please?
Sure, thank you. The zoning officer's response to my complaint is, this office makes no determination regarding the ability of Mr. Haley to practice engineering in the state of South Dakota. The zoning officer missed the point. The point is not whether or not Haley can legally practice engineering. The point is he misrepresented himself to the board and to the public that he was a licensed professional engineer, giving more weight to his sound and flicker studies because of the use of a title to which he was not entitled to use because he was not a professional registered engineer. Haley is a mechanical engineer who now labels himself as a wind engineer, whatever that is. He told the PUC at our evidentiary hearing it was a title he bestowed upon himself. The zoning officer quotes the board's findings, and this is important. The application and testimony at this meeting will satisfy requirements of Chapter 5.22, including flicker appearance and noise. The application noted in the finding is based in part on misrepresentation. Haley testified in the PUC evidentiary hearing that he did not retain his PE license because they ramped up the requirements. He knew he wasn't a licensed professional engineer. He didn't want to fulfill the requirements to get his license. He didn't want to do the work. He never corrected his misrepresentation to you. He or someone from Crown Ridge had that opportunity on July 16, 2018, to correct that misrepresentation when John Wiles, rest his soul, brought up to the board, "You have no idea who these people are. You haven't vetted them or their credentials." Crickets. No one corrected him. The zoning officer said there is no requirement for a sound study, but there was a sound study submitted with the application. It was submitted, it was reviewed on the staff report, and it was discussed at length in the public meeting. And just like I read a minute ago, the application and testimony at this meeting allowed the board to review how the applicant will satisfy the requirements of our ordinance. Haley's information was used to influence the determination of the issuance of the cup. The zoning officer argues that the flicker analysis is not required to be provided by a professional engineer. I do not disagree, but he said he was. He illegally represented himself as something he was not. Of course, no noise or flicker complaints have been registered at this time because the operation of the turbines is not happening. They aren't operational at this point, but the complaint is not about noise or flicker. The complaint is there was misrepresentation involved in the process of obtaining the permit. Remember the waiver they're seeking from the PUC? Remember how they've totally changed the turbine configuration from what they applied for and were permitted for? You have our legal brief in your packet in front of you for your review. The board was misled, you were duped, I was duped. Where is our protection from the county? It is the board's responsibility to protect me and my neighbors, not to protect Crown Ridge. This cup needs to be revoked on the basis of illegal misrepresentation.
Okay. Mr. Newcomb, you have a response?
Thank you. My understanding is that we are here on the appeal of a denial of a stop order. What Amber's really asking you to do is what she's looking for is another avenue to appeal the issuance of the conditional use permit. That ship has sailed, the time has passed. There is an exclusive statutory remedy for appeal of the conditional use permit. It is not coming before this board and saying that one of the witnesses whose testimony was accepted at the time wasn't qualified. That this is not the appropriate forum. The forum for that is the appeal to circuit court, which some of the participants in the conditional use permit have already taken. The appeal was denied on the merits. this is not the appropriate forum for that. That this is consideration of whether or not the zoning officer properly or improperly denied the request for a stop order. And again, stop orders are designed for compliance with the ordinance. They are not an additional legal remedy to appeal the issuance of a conditional use permit. With regard to Mr. Healy's designation as a professional engineer, he spent his whole career as a licensed professional engineer in North Dakota. His testimony before the PUC is not that there were more strenuous requirements he didn't want to meet. It's that he was nearing retirement and decided there was no point in paying the fee each year to continue that designation. He neglected to take the PE designation off of the materials that he had been using for years. He probably should have, but he didn't. His testimony in front of the PUC is exactly as I stated, that he was nearing retirement, didn't want to pay the fee, but more importantly, there is no requirement anywhere that you be an engineer to conduct the sound studies that we're talking about here. It is not project design, it's not product or technology design that would require a professional engineer to do the work. It's sound modeling using computer technology. If you look at the materials that Amber submitted, including the resume of Mr. Healy, you will see that he travels around the world and teaches people how to use this specific wind modeling technology. He's truly one of the world's leading authorities on the use of this software. He doesn't have to be an engineer to do that. So his qualifications were clear, they were satisfactory to the Public Utilities Commission, despite the brief that she submitted being submitted to the PUC in this matter being argued at that level. Even if everything she said was true, this is not an appeal of the issuance of the CUP. This is not the forum for it. It's a hearing on whether or not the zoning officer properly exercised his discretion in denying the stop order, because this simply isn't a compliance issue. There's nothing with regard to this that would indicate that the project is out of compliance. The sound and shadow flicker modeling that he did is consistent with the findings of the PUC, that it shows that the project will be fully compliant with the county ordinances. So there's no basis here for overturning the zoning officer's decision.
Okay, thank you. Amber, do you have a 3-minute rebuttal? 3 minutes.
Miles says that ship has sailed on appealing a conditional use permit. It hasn't sailed on misrepresentation, illegal misrepresentation and fraud. At the PUC, he did say that he decided not to pay the fee. He didn't want to do the work. He didn't want to, he said they ramped up the requirements. The difference between him testifying at the PUC and them regarding his testimony was they were aware he lied about being a professional engineer. The public and the county was not aware he was lying about his credentials and gave it appropriate weight of his credentials that he was not entitled to use. What he did was illegal. It's not that we're mad about it. It was illegal. So he may travel the world and show them how to use his software that he sells. He may do that. But does he misrepresent himself on a $400 million project to the public and to the board? I don't think so. The PUC did have the opportunity to weigh his testimony appropriately. They knew he was not a professional engineer. We did not find out until after the time to appeal the decision on the county CUP. We didn't find out about that misrepresentation illegality. So you need to protect the public, and you need to rehear the application. The public needs to anyway. I don't know about you guys, but that's that's my take on it.
Okay. So I'll offer the wind company 3 minutes of rebuttal here.
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay. Board members, comments or questions for the party? First, we'll turn to the gentleman on the left.
I don't have anything additional to add. I would just echo the comments I made before, that in order to overturn the decision of the zoning officer would be two-thirds supermajority.
Okay. Would you go ahead and put, at this time, up there is a letter that the zoning officer had sent Ms. Christensen, and this is what is being appealed, is its decision. I'll let board members read through it.
Can you sharpen it up here?
Not much.
It's like an eye test.
That's
There we
worse.
go.
Well,
That work?
That looks good. Worse.
Because the was smaller.
1 or 2?
3.
Yeah. I can tell you that's probably about as large and sharp as I can make that.
Can you read, can you see it, Myron? Otherwise, I have a hard copy here, I'll show you.
I might if you have troubles here.
Bifocals don't read well sideways. I see that.
There are a couple more bullet points at the bottom, so let me know when I can advance the page.
Okay, ready to advance. Good, looks like most of you have finished reading it. This is what is being appealed. You've heard from both sides. I will need that back, Myron, if we could. Can you grab that? You've heard both sides of this argument on the appeal. Does this generate any questions to the party?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions for Amber, please. In the paperwork that you submitted to the county, that the county put up on their website, there was, you filed something with PUC concerning Jay?
At the time of the evidentiary hearing, yes, we did, to notify them that he was not a licensed professional
What
engineer.
did the PUC rule on that?
Well, like I said, the PUC then was notified he was not a professional engineer, and they allowed him to testify, but they knew then he was not a professional engineer. The difference being, we didn't know he wasn't a professional engineer. He said he was here. But when we got there, we found out through our investigation, preparing for the hearing, that he had lied at the public meeting and said he was a registered professional engineer in Waverly. And he signed all of his documents, every document on the application that had...
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
My question is, when did you file that paperwork with the PUC?
During the evidentiary hearing,
Which was when?
June.
In June. So you knew in June that he was not a professional engineer.
Yes.
Okay, my question was, what in the PUC already knew that?
The PUC didn't know until we told them.
Okay, and so what did they rule on that then? Did they say he couldn't testify in front of them, or that he couldn't use the PE in front of his name?
I don't know. I don't know if they said he couldn't use the PE. It's illegal to do that. So I don't know that they said anything about actually using the PE, but they did listen to his
They
testimony.
did listen to it, okay. I guess the second question I had is, you said that when they changed the towers, when they moved the towers, noise increased, and it increased at that gentleman's land. But then you stated that they have no turbines running as of yet.
In their sound study, in the noise study that they submitted at the PUC, they changed it many times out at the PUC.
Okay, but you're saying that the noise has increased at his property
In their study.
in their study? Okay. I took it meaning literally. I didn't have you didn't say in the study, so that's what I guess my
apologize.
question was. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anyone else? Just as a follow-up, Amber, to what Mark was saying, so the PUC had that information in front of them before they made their decision? Both
They
on-
did. They
both
were
on the
aware he
noise-
was not licensed, so.
Both on the noise issue and the question of whether he had PE in front of his name on that. They were aware of that
He
before.
removed PE once he got to the.
But they accepted his steady
Yes,
in their determination.
like I said, they were aware, so.
Okay, any other questions for either party? Okay, you've had a chance to read through the appeal of the letter that was mailed. Are you ready to vote at this time? Okay,
Call the roll, please. Let me back up. A yes vote will overturn the decision of the zoning officer. A no vote will affirm the decision of the zoning officer. Everybody clear on that? Okay, now call the roll, please.
Bob Fox,
No.
Mark O'Neill,
No.
Arthur Johnson,
No,
Charles Russell,
no.
Rodney Clatt,
No.
Mel Reese,
No.
Brenda Hanton,
No.
0 yes, 7 no.
Okay, so the zoning officer's decision is affirmed. Appeal number 3, appeal of the decision of the zoning officer that construction prior to the issuance of a building permit for an operation of maintenance building was prior to construction upon structure. Now, a few things have changed since the zoning officer sent that letter. Let me find, where's that? Do you want to explain any of this? Maybe it would be better coming from you and the changes.
In the zoning officer's initial letter dated November 20th, I believe the correspondence set forth that all applicable permits were in place prior to construction of the operation and maintenance structure. In between the issuance of that letter and today's hearing, I believe the zoning officer discovered that he made an error with respect to the dates of the photographs versus the dates of the issuance of the permits, and determined that the O&M structure construction did commence prior to the applicable building permit being issued on September 11, 2019. Accordingly, he assessed an administrative fee of $1,154 to be paid on or before today, and it's my understanding that that fee was paid last week. And so I don't know if it doesn't seem as though there's anything left to be decided on this appeal, since the zoning officer did reverse his original course, issued the administrative fee that would go with the alleged issue, and the administrative fee was paid. So that's where things stand currently.
That's the reason I didn't ask for a motion on this item to even